I think the only thing you have to rely on sometimes is yourself. And with yourself, as long as you're grounded and you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you'll carry yourself through. I wasn't at the peak of my modesty journey at one point, and then I was at the peak of my fitness journey at some points, and now I'm not, and things like that. I think doing it out loud, it's empowering in a lot of ways, because you realize life really isn't just one linear, like up and up and up. So for me, there was a lot of kind of barriers to even stepping foot in a gym, let alone then making content, then inspiring other girls to do the same. So my name's Aaliyah. I guess a bit about me. So I started in the fitness kind of industry by accident. So I was never intending to be like a content creator, never really intending to turn it into a kind of a job. I just got into the gym as someone who grew up quite overweight and kind of grew up with no understanding of health and fitness at all. And also, to be fair, was never really encouraged to get into it by my parents. And I think there's a lot of that we can unpack, but a lot of that is to do with like the perception of health and wellness and women kind of in our communities getting into those spaces. But yeah, so I'm just someone that kind of grew up completely on the flip side of any knowledge of health and fitness. And when I was about 15, 16, I had a really bad head injury. Just in the interest of keeping an intro short, I won't go too into it, but I had a head injury. It resulted in like a lot of issues on one side of my body. And that meant it was the first time I really thought like, wow, my health really is up to me, because I needed to get better. And I just didn't understand, like, because there was a lot of back and forth with hospitals, doctors. And so that was the first time I stepped foot in a gym. And it kind of went from 0 to 100 from there. And then in the kind of content creation space of it was just, I got into the gym with my sister. The more we went, the more we saw there really isn't, I started to look online for inspiration and stuff. And there was a lot of fitness creators. There's just no one that looked like me or I felt like I could relate to. And so sharing, to be honest, it came from that. I was like, if I could help one girl that felt like, this girl looks like me and she's doing this, it really just came from there and sort of spiraled into what I do now.
Do you know what? I see this story quite often. The fact that the people that don't want to do it end up almost being the best at it, because you're not trying to be anything different. You're not trying to be anything that you're not. You're literally just being authentically you. Do you think like actually coming into the space and not wanting necessarily in the first instance to be in the space has actually helped?
Yeah, weirdly, I think it's helped keep me really grounded throughout. So like no matter kind of how it grew or how many like brands I worked with and things like that, it's just always kept me really, really grounded. Like I've always known that intention I had the first day I started, which is if I can help one girl feel more comfortable, more confident in the gym, it's still my intention now. So yeah, I think definitely, because it kind of, that to me, that's a job well done if one person's kind of positively affected. So it makes all the rest quite nice. Like the rest is just a bonus.
When you grow though, it must be quite difficult to get back to that feeling of just that one person. Have you ever had to like remind yourself like, this is why I'm doing that, and not kind of get overwhelmed by the numbers?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think anytime, I think I was lucky in that when I started, like I said, I didn't have the intention for it to grow, but it grew. And I think you do sometimes get a little bit addicted to that feeling. And I think for sure when that growth felt like it might have been slowing down, or any moments where in my career it's felt a bit slow, I think that's when I have to go back to that grounding voice of like, actually, okay, I'm not growing in followers right now, or I'm not, I don't know, whatever other kind of metrics we have. Anytime that feels a little bit slow, that's when I do really need to remind myself. But weirdly, I do think the bigger I got, or the more kind of established I felt, the more I try to go back to that. Yeah, it's a weird one, but I do often kind of feel that way, because I think when you get caught up in numbers, it's just never enough. Like you could get to a certain point and then there's just someone's always bigger or better than you. Yeah.
And it's when you reflect back then as well, isn't it? Like, I bet it felt absolutely insane when you first hit like 10,000 followers. I bet that was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is incredible. But then you almost think at that moment, it's like, oh, I won't want any more then. But you
No,
always
so
kind of
true.
want,
Yeah.
you always kind of want that one extra bit. And you're like, when does this stop? Does it stop? So I
Yeah.
think probably coming back to kind of the feeling of that one person impacting that one person is
Mm.
something that's like super powerful when you're seeing that exponential growth.
Definitely. And I think it's funny because whenever I do think back to that time, I wasn't doing it knowing it would pay my bills one day or it would be a job or anything. So actually, when I think about it, I'm like, what really drove me? Because there was no, it's this thing I was pouring a lot of time and energy into because it literally is like a full-time job. But at that time, I was like studying and I was trying to find like a full-time job. I was just doing it because I was passionate. And I think I do try to remind myself of that a lot whenever it feels like a lot. Because I'm like, I did this like balancing 10 other things just because I was passionate about it. But it's true. I think the older you get and the more it becomes like, oh, it's a job or it's this, and you look at it like an opportunity, it does become this thing you want to measure. But I think that the impact is a thing that sometimes you can't always measure, only until like you kind of someone tells you like, actually, your content did this for me, or when I meet people in real life, I think that's when I kind of I'm reminded of actually there's just such a bigger kind of vision and purpose for this.
It's so weird that as well, isn't it? Like I won't have experienced it even to the nth degree that you have, but you know, I was on the radio, or I still am on the radio now, and I get that thing sometimes where people come up to me and say something that I've said, and I'm like, how do you know that about
Yeah.
me? And then I'm like, oh right, yeah,
So
I
true.
remember now. I literally said it, but like you've got that like times 1,000 because of the following you've got. That must be weird when people come up to you like in the street, let's say, and say like, thank you. Like that content has really helped me.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think it's weird. It's weird. The bigger I've got, the more anxious I've gotten around things. It's really
Okay.
weird. Like you think you feel more competent, but I actually really miss how like competent I felt when I was smaller and when it wasn't like a job and I didn't have this different perception of it. But it is true because in this space, when I started kind of creating fitness content, there was literally probably myself and one other. Myself and my sister kind of started together, and then one other kind of Muslim hijabi female that was in the space. And now there are so many more Muslim women kind of in the fitness space making content, inspiring women. But it was really surreal because as that change started to happen, a lot of them would message me for advice when they were starting out, or message me saying I was one of the reasons they started. And it's crazy to me now, even that when I see a lot of that, they're huge, they've grown, and you know they're doing amazing work. So that part's really surreal. And then of course, like just people that I meet, because I run like monthly events for women, and literally my last event, one of the girls, I was like, oh, where are you from? And I thought, you know, she's down the road. She was from Canada. Yeah, and she'd recently got married and moved over here. And she was like, oh, it's crazy. I used to watch your events from Canada. I never thought I'd be able to be at one. Yeah, that's when it's like, whoa, actually it's really surreal. I think those moments is when I'm like, okay, the impact is so far and wide. I can't even actually like imagine.
Yeah, and it's weird, isn't it? When you're, you know, when you're basically just, I know you've mentioned it a couple of times, like it being a job, and it is a full-time job. And I think sometimes people maybe don't appreciate that, and you still have the same pressures as any other job, maybe even more because there is a lot less stability. But you are
Mm.
realistically like creating this content through a phone a lot of the time, and
Yeah.
you literally don't think like, oh, there's going to be somebody just chilling in Canada watching this, and it's going to have an impact
Yeah,
on their life.
literally. It's
Because if
so
you started
true.
thinking that, it's like you kind of take 500 back steps at that point, I think.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I think perhaps that is why I do feel more anxious the bigger I've gotten rather than before. I think maybe before I just had this really small, like, if I could help the girl next door type of feeling. And then maybe as you get bigger, you kind of do start to overthink everything. But when I take it back and just strip it back to actually that was just the one intention, it does make creation, all of it just feel a bit easier because
Yeah.
you're just simplifying it to actually my grounding kind of force. And the reason I want to do this is literally just help any other girl like me. But yeah, it is surreal though. It does really, I think the more you think about it, the bigger it feels.
I don't want to overwhelm you here. Like I
Yeah.
feel like we're getting into that space. It's that phrase that you've used, like that girl like me is the thing that I absolutely love about your content as well. And we've kind of just mentioned it there as well. Like when you and your sister started, there was kind
Mm.
of no one from the same background, the same culture, or very few. And now it feels like there is not necessarily an influx, but it's better represented than it may have
Yeah.
been in the past. And I think that is, and I'm going to be complimentary here, which might feel difficult for you, but like it is because there are people that lead in that space that have kind of
Mm.
paved the way for other people to have the confidence to do it. you also mentioned in your intro, like maybe when you were growing up, it's not something you were encouraged to do. So I think let's touch on that a little bit at this point. Growing up, was the gym even considered? Like, would that even be something that you would have thought to have done, or any sports?
Not at all, to be honest. I think it's not the case for every like South Asian girl and things, but for me and the kind of I come from a really South Asian dominant kind of area
Right.
in Birmingham. And because of that, the whole community is Asian. The whole community is kind of the people my parents grew up with back in India as well. So they've all kind of ended up moving and living, settling around where we are. So I think that and then their kind of perception of fitness was very much I think the fear of you kind of losing your modesty, or I don't think I fully unpacked why they were so anti kind of getting into fitness, but it was just never really encouraged. So I didn't even grow up learning how to ride a bike. Like I still
Okay.
today don't know how to ride a bike. And I think a big part of it was like the community we grew up in, they wouldn't mind if boys were kind of riding bikes on the street. Because we didn't have like a big back garden or anything like that. So I think if I learned to ride a bike, it'd be riding kind of on the main streets and stuff. And I think to them it just didn't seem modest. And I think there's been huge shifts in like our community's understanding and perception of modesty as well. But yeah, for me growing up, I think a big part of not getting into it was just that they didn't understand they didn't understand that kind of modesty and fitness could coexist. So I remember when I actually first started to get into the gym, and to be honest, I say first, like pretty much up until I'm talking into my uni days, a lot of me going to the gym was hidden, as in I didn't really always say, "Oh, I'm going to the gym." I was just going to school or uni or whatever, and I'd do it while I was out. It wasn't, I think if I tried to have a conversation about going to the gym, it probably wouldn't have gone that well. And a big part of it's quite sad because it associates fitness with kind of lying for you. Like to me, it felt like, oh, I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing, but I'm going to do it anyway because I knew it was important to my health. And like I said, I kind of required a catalyst as big as having a head injury and losing like a lot of function on one side of my body to be like, I need to take my health seriously. And it does make me wonder, like, if that didn't happen, I don't really know if I would have gone on this journey, or I would have just accepted kind of just doing the bare minimum. Yeah, so for me, there was a lot of kind of barriers to even stepping foot in a gym, let alone then making content, then inspiring other girls to do the same. But I think it's just such a like positive negative thing, because I think without the barriers and without the friction, I don't know if I would be as passionate about kind of encouraging other girls to do it, because I know
Yeah.
how hard it was to push past the barriers and how much I needed representation. So I think that was a big kind of reasoning behind becoming the representation too.
Yeah, you've lived
Yeah.
it, right? You've lived it,
Yeah.
and like there's not many people that can say they actually have lived it, and that's something that you truly can. And I think that's probably why there is so much impact there, and you do have that impact that you've had, is because
Mm.
you've got that lived experience.
Yeah, and it's so true, and it's so funny because since so I got married last year around like last July, and my husband's the complete opposite, like so supportive when it comes to, like, he's come to all my comps, he's come to my marathons, and he loves it. But it's really funny because I felt the fire sort of die a little bit. It's really weird. Like I've got all of the support, and suddenly I think a big part of my personality and a big part of really being so like I was so kind of dedicated, and I think a part of it was the feeling of like retaliating against a barrier that I didn't really believe in. And it's really funny because now I have all of the support and I'm like, oh, but actually I don't want to go to the gym today.
it's
So it's really weird.
It's so true though, because you're like,
Yeah.
there's so much power in proving people wrong, isn't there? And
Yeah.
like at its
Yeah.
core, that's what you're doing. Like
It is
you're
true.
proving your you know, I'm going to say family, but I know it's
Hmm.
like the cultural kind of
Yeah.
feeling towards it. You're proving that wrong. Like, no, this is a beneficial thing for me to do, and
Mm.
yeah, these two things can run and coexist.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but when you don't have that anymore, it's like,
It's really
oh, who am I
funny.
proving
Yeah.
wrong? What's happening here?
It is. It's so true. I really had to battle that this past year because I've got all of the support, and like even his family, like they're so lovely, really love like everything I do. But I think living a lifetime of feeling that you're trying to prove people wrong. And even in some ways, when it came to content, when I started, I had so much, like, as in terms of online hate and like backlash from, and often it was just from your own, it was from like people from your own community. I had loads, and now it doesn't really happen. I think it is because of that kind of normalizing, and people see it a lot more. It's just when I started, people really didn't see it. So it's funny that, because now I don't get it from online, and thankfully not even in real life, which is great. I'm definitely not complaining about that. But I think maybe I have had to really sit with myself and be like, okay, other than, I think, like, proving people, like, it wasn't just proving people wrong, it was feeling like I needed to break something. But part of me feels like, I know it's not, the work isn't done yet, but it feels like a bit in big chunks that has been broken down. Because even for example in the industry, like I said, first I started and had this, okay, I just want to help the girl like me. And then as I started to get, say, like, brand awareness, I think my first ever brand that reached out and I worked with was My Protein, which to me was massive, like huge. That's such a household name. All of us like all of us start off with their like protein and creatine. So that was huge. And I think I was pretty much one of the like first hijabi kind of girls that worked with them. And I remember then starting to, then I had this new perception of the industry. Like, actually, there's no Muslim girl like really in working, say, with My Protein, or then like with Gymshark and all of these other huge brands we knew of. And it's really because even that, impact wise, I started to see it grow. So with My Protein, I remember being part of the team that they'd bring me in and get me to talk to like some of the designers around, oh, how can we, I think a lot of these companies didn't really even think like, how do modest girls dress to the gym? Because of course, like, back then when I started, most of the clothing that we'd find is, you either get your leggings, bras and t-shirts, or really fleecy clothes. So I did so much training in like really fleecy like joggers and hoodies, and now I'm like, I don't know how I did it.
Like roasting.
Yeah, but you just had like, you had no other option, so you just get used to it. And obviously, like, you're getting this first experience of brands wanting to gift you clothes, and suddenly out, it was the first time, because I guess before that I was a student, I wasn't really like, I was kind of training in Primark clothes and things like that, and that worked for me. I mean, I did so much training in the cheapest clothes, but when you start to have these brands, oh, would you like to try our stuff? And then you go to look at it, I'm like, this is free and I still can't wear any of it. I think that was when I was like, actually, this is crazy. But yeah, it's really, even that, it's quite surreal to have been part of, like, I was part of like an Honor Active focus group for when they started trying to make modest clothing. Same with Gymshark, did like a focus group with them and a couple of other modest athletes of theirs. And yeah, even being part of that change in the industry, where now, thankfully, as in, like, this is from a new drop from Gymshark, and the entire collection I can wear. It's crazy to me, because that just never used to be the case. Like, they'd send us the products, but I actually couldn't wear any of it. So even being part of that change and seeing it happen, and seeing, when I go to the gym now, because I still gym in like quite a diverse area, so there's a lot of Muslim girls there, but seeing them in like Gymshark and more mainstream brands is really nice, because they look completely modest, but it's because the industry has slowly started to accommodate for us as well. So yeah, being part of that change is quite surreal too.
It must be weird to reflect back on that though, as well, because like, you're not just
Yeah.
reflecting on, the start of your career, you're actually reflecting on fundamental change in the community and being part of that. So like,
Yeah.
how does that make you feel when you talk about stuff like that?
It is quite surreal. Like, very recently, because I moved away when I got married and moved to Cambridge. So the past year I've been living there, and we recently moved back to Birmingham. So I've gone back to the gym I used to train at a year ago, well, a year and a half-ish. And even just in that time frame, I'm starting to see a lot of the girls, like I said, wearing, because in that time frame, Gymshark dropped, like, say, an abaya to train in, and I see one of the girls coming in and wearing that. I see some of the girls wearing just very similar outfits to the ones I kind of show online. And it's very surreal, because when I'm there, I'm just another girl in the gym, same as them, kind of dressing similar and stuff. And then when I really see them and take stock of, actually, a lot of them, because I know they follow me and things like that, I'm like, a lot of them could have seen it from me or from other girls online, but it is crazy, because I feel just like them. I am the same as them, but then at the same time, I've kind of subliminally had this impact on the industry that's created now the clothing that they feel comfortable wearing, and then also on them directly. So yeah, it definitely is quite surreal, because I remember just the lengths I'd go to try and figure out outfits that I can wear. And the fact that now, like, you can just pick up a pair of joggers that work for you, that are actually lightweight, you can actually train in, and then like a long t-shirt that you feel comfortable in. All of those things, I think they're so simple. It's just the clothing that you wear. But it was such a friction, like it was such a barrier point for me. Because even on the modesty scale, when I first started, because of what the industry offered, I do remember my really early days of content and also of just the gym. Actually, I would compromise. So like a lot of the clothing, and it took me a while to kind of unpack why I was feeling a type of way, because I was young, but I was technically compromising on my modesty just because I felt like I had to dress a type of way to fit into the gym.
Okay.
So yeah, like like now you won't really see me wearing like leggings in the gym or kind of shorter tops, just because it's not something that I feel comfortable in, and it's not something it's not the way I dress outside of the gym. Never really have been. But it was funny because at that time, because it was all I saw online, and I obviously started to, I wanted to be a gym girl and I wanted to fit a certain lifestyle. I felt I had to. So I remember compromising. I remember wearing like leggings or shorter tops and things like that, like I said, I just wouldn't wear. Even at that time, I wouldn't wear out of the gym. So it was quite funny, like, as in, it took months of unpacking, and I was like, wait, I felt okay in the gym. The second I left, I didn't feel like myself. Like, I wouldn't wear those clothes outside. So part of me was like, why am I doing this inside if I don't feel comfortable out? It was a lot of kind of unpacking. So yeah, it's a really, but I think a part of it was representation wise. I wanted to be a gym girl, and I only saw one type of them. Whereas now I feel like a lot of girls see so many types of gym girls that they know you feel more comfortable and confident kind of being your best, modest, covered self, but you can still be like those two kind of parts of your identity can coexist now.
It's so interesting hearing you talk about that, because it's almost like there's that bridge there now, and there wasn't there before,
Yeah.
because it's like you were almost trying to fit in and hiding the fact you were going to the gym on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis from
Yeah.
like your family and friends, and then when you were in the gym, you were almost trying to fit in that space as well.
Yeah.
And then there was nothing in the middle to kind of bridge those two things. But it feels like, and I'm sure there's still a lot of work to do on that bridge, but it
Mm.
feels like that's began to get built almost.
Definitely. No, for sure. It's so true. And I think even I think you put it really well, but you basically don't feel like you fit into either space, because kind of in one place you're trying to force normalizing something that they just don't understand, and then in another place you're trying to be something you're not. And I think it probably took 6 months to a year even to be like, actually, why am I doing this? Like, in both
Yeah.
places, you're kind of fighting to be someone you don't want to be in either place. So yeah, it was weird, but I do definitely think it's weird. My journey, it feels like I've kind of done all of that work, like working out loud. So people are really, because a lot of some people followed me like from kind of day one, and they like, it's nice when you talk to them, but they're like, oh, like, I've watched you since this time or this time, and it is sometimes it feels really exposing, because I feel like you've kind of been through the deepest, darkest parts of my journey. But in other ways, it's really quite nice, because I feel like like, even people that watch me can see like, okay, I wasn't at the peak of my modesty journey at one point, and then I was at the peak of my fitness journey at some points, and now I'm not, and things like that. I think doing it out loud, it's empowering in a lot of ways, because you realize life really isn't just one linear, like, up and up and up. Like, I didn't start off like not very modest and got extremely modest. I've had, I what I thought wasn't very modest, and then I felt like I was extremely, and then I went down a bit. And I think all of that, it's just because, like, it's just peaks and troughs. It's just life. Yeah.
100%. It's that meme that everybody always sees of like progress, isn't it? That it's not like that. It's literally just like a
Yeah.
squirrely line all over the place. And I think everybody's life, if you broke it down into lots of different areas, they'd have lots of different areas that sometimes one thing might be going well and something else might not be going very well at all. And I think it's just that
Yeah.
understanding that everybody has different parts and different facets of their life that change, that are malleable, that, as you say, just
Definitely.
kind of go in that cycle of peaks and troughs. And also, that's all right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
fine, isn't it? No one's expecting
Definitely.
everything to be perfect 100% of the time. And if somebody's
Mm.
showing perfection 100% of the time, they're probably lying.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It is true. I think that, funnily, that was a big learning point for even my content journey. Like, I think at the start, I had this I can be quite a perfectionist when it comes to it. And I just thought I could only show the best bit. So I'd love to share like the really intense training. Like my online vibe, I think from when I first ever started to now is so drastically different. I think I was just known for like really intense, really boyish, like strong content. And it shows even in my insights. So I used to have like, I think 70% male
Oh,
following.
wow.
Yeah. Now it's literally under 40% male. And I think a big part was because it was just really intense, strong, like, which I love too. It's a different phase of who I was, but I was and I think it comes from that trying to prove everyone wrong, trying to outwork everyone. And it was from a very like angry place, which I mean, I stand by because it was a lot of, I was feeling so much rage around like, I have brothers. I have met like, I know men in the community. I'm like, if my brother was doing the exact same thing I was doing, he would be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Keep going. And if he had the same drive I did, it would have been met with a very different energy. Whereas I had to do everything in secret and I had to like, yeah, like, as in, I don't think by family, I think I mean more parents of the elder kind of generation. I don't think they knew what I did until I was like 50K followers in, working with my protein. As in, I was quite deep into it, and then they found out. Then there was a lot of backlash, and then I was like, as in, to the point. I think when I talk about like the mental kind of weight of it, it was to the point where I had built up something so what I should have been really proud of, but actually all I felt was a lot of it was such mixed feelings about it, which now when I look back, I feel quite sad, as in for younger me, because I think like if I had that type of growth now, I'd be crazy proud. But I think at the time, because there's just so much fear around it. Like imagine you're doing something so huge, but at the same time, where you spend the most of your time at home, it was like it didn't exist. It's something you don't talk about. It didn't exist. But to the point where I think I think when my dad did find out and we had a conversation, it was to the point where I was this close to like let go of all of it. Like, okay, I'll just delete everything. I'll just like close all my accounts because obviously there's too much to try and change like his opinion on. But the fear of it all actually was, when I think about it, it's quite crazy. Like it was probably such a, like, I was 80/20 wanting to delete everything. And
Mad.
yeah, and I literally had a conversation with my mum and my brother. Mainly, I think my older brother, because he's an example of, he's only 2 years older than me, but he grew up, in the same environment, same community. And I think he didn't realize, but inherently he had some of those views that, girls shouldn't do certain things and things like that. And only as he really witnessed my growth, his perspective, like without me needing to say anything, I saw him change his mind. I saw him really love what I do and really encourage it. And so funnily at that time when I was so close, I had a conversation with him and he said no. Like, I think, yeah, he was someone that was like, you've worked so hard to build everything you're doing. What you're doing is great. And you have the best understanding of your intentions and why you're doing things and all of that. And I think literally just his grounding voice in that moment where I was so close, is funnily like now when I think about it, it was a really pivotal moment for me I think I just needed one person to be like, no, actually what you're doing is really, really good, and like really impactful. And I think sadly, I think I did need that to be a male voice, because a lot of the backlash was also from male voices. So I think it coming from like my older brother and stuff, it held a lot of weight at the time. It's funny because now I don't think I'd need any of that, like thankfully, because I feel quite grounded in it. But yeah, because I mean I was like probably 21 and like lived a certain type of like, good girl life for quite a long time, just did what I thought was the right thing to do. So yeah, it was a crazy time when I think about it now.
I can't imagine that feeling like building up as well, because I'm sure everybody's had, things that they haven't said in, work-life balance or relationships or
Mhm.
whatever, and it's kind of built up and up and up. And I think that's the only way that anybody listening could even begin to try and relate to your journey, which is obviously totally different and far greater than that. But I'm just trying to think of like a relatable feeling. And it's that thing, if something's not said, it becomes bigger, doesn't it? And in your
Yeah.
instance, it wasn't said, so it got to a massive crescendo point, which, yeah, I would imagine was
Yeah.
very, very difficult. And your sister, was she making content at that point as well.
Yeah,
Like,
I think, to be fair with my sister, a lot of what I'm explaining, it was a very similar journey for the
yeah,
two of us.
mad.
Yeah.
But then
So we kind of went through that together.
you must have felt, yeah, that connection, but also that sort of like want for her to be okay as well.
Yeah,
What?
everything I'm describing, like wanting to let go of it and the fear, and we went through it together. As in, even the
Yeah,
conversations I'm talking about, as in, we were both sat. So
mad.
everything I'm explaining, yeah, and it's a weird feeling. I think for sure we are so close. Like as siblings, we're so close. Everyone says it's like weird how close we are, but I think one part is there's a level. I shouldn't call it that, but there's a level of like bonding that comes from like trauma bonding. As in, no one in the world like understands the depth of like the fear we felt, or like loads of all of the barriers I'm talking about breaking. We did it together, which is it's such a like crazy kind of bond to have. But at the same time, I think what you don't also, the highs are great, but what happens is the lows, when you've come from the same place and have similar like pain points, the lows can be extremely low because we both spiral together. Because you're both feeling it, right? So like she wasn't in that moment, she wasn't telling me like, no, we should keep going. We were both equally as anxious, both equally as scared or as stressed. So that's why I do think the outside voice of my brother or my mom made a huge difference in that moment. But otherwise, growth wise, having each other made a huge difference, like through the online hate and through like loads of other parts of the journey for sure, because we kind of were experiencing it together.
Where are they with it now?
A lot more supportive. So I think pretty much my whole family is quite supportive. I think I would have to say probably like my dad, it's still he's I think he understands a little bit more now. He's just from a different generation that doesn't even he doesn't have social media. So like
Yeah.
as in even to understand the world of it, I think it's just kind of beyond him. And one thing I've learned is a lot of our parents, like, they're kind of um moved to this country, adapted to the culture. And he's like really achieved a lot in this country, like, with work and everything. But I think there's a level of just fear of the unknown and a level of like, they want you to be what they think is safe. But obviously I've grown up in it, like I was born and brought up here. So my whole perception of like safety is it's just different. And I think, yeah, so I think he's like, as in he's at, I'd probably say more a stage of acceptance rather than super proud of it or anything. But I think for me personally, I've kind of let go of needing that like feeling, oh, he's really proud of me, which is okay. Because I think, yeah, you learn to find certain feelings in other places. And I think it's okay, but also internally, it really does make you quite like strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like mentioned the word protection there as well. And I think like
Mm.
inherently a lot of the things our parents do in every facet of our lives is to do with that, isn't it? I don't have kids,
Yeah,
but I would imagine if I did, I'd be fiercely protective of them in whatever space they decided to go into. So yeah, I'm
definitely.
sure it's definitely part of that as well.
Yeah, and I think because I always think about like the way AI is kind of growing now in our lives, and I do always think like when I have kids, we're like, because I sometimes feel like I don't understand like TikTok the way it moves or certain things,
Hello.
like even yeah, like I've got my younger brother's 20, so we're only what 6 years apart, and sometimes he's speaking certain things and I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And that's the first time I think I'm starting to understand. And everyone says as you grow older, you kind of understand your parents a little bit more. And it does make me think, I think when I'm now in a world where I might be, having kids and they understand all of this technology that I just can't grasp, I think I can understand it is quite scary because
Yeah.
I can't grasp it. So I now can't control like how safe you are or things like that. And I think the older I get, I kind of understand. I think I just like to think that hopefully we'll try to at least be like a little bit more supportive, or I guess do the work to understand why they're so passionate about something and maybe just guide them in a way where, they still feel like they kind of have your support. But no, I think definitely the older I get, the more I can understand.
You're
And I
so
guess that's what we can do, like just learn from things.
Yeah, 100%. And you're so right with like the technology thing. Like, I know it's a bit off
Yeah.
topic, but I cannot agree with you more. Like that.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, and I was very lucky to know my great grandparents, and I remember going to visit him in the home that he was in at the time, and like he just could not deal with the telly. Just did not get it. Like, what is
Really?
it?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how to switch it on. So he like had to buy these little color stickers and put them on the TV remote.
Oh,
I'd be like, he'd
bless.
ring up and be like, just press the red one. You know what colors are,
Oh.
so just press red. And he'd be like,
It
oh yeah,
is,
it's worked. Now there's a
yeah.
picture. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind
But
of how
it's
things
true. I
work.
think when you think that, like, to us, a remote is nothing. You can figure it out no matter, like, even if you're picking up a completely random remote, we can figure it out. But yeah, I think that's so true. And I think from that to like, oh, like I'm making videos out of my phone and anyone in the world could, because I think maybe actually now that I think about it, the other element was that their fear of, because also then now if we think like they're also worried about modesty and what people, because in our community what people think is just, I know it's in every community, but I feel like they are quite, it's like it's really big for them. Like I think in a lot of Asian communities, like we went to a wedding yesterday and myself and my husband were talking about the same, but even sometimes decisions we make around like how big your wedding is or how you do certain things, we are really, it's just in the culture to be more concerned about what people think than sometimes what you actually want. And that was a huge, I think, point I was trying to make them understand as well, as that, do you think I'm doing something wrong, or do you think people are going to feel a type of way? But a lot of the time no one's thinking anything, it's just in your head. But a big part, I think, actually now I remember, is we've also got, obviously, a lot of our families, like we've got family here and then we've got family in India, you've got family abroad. And I think to him social media also is this scary thing where, but people all the way there now know your life and they can see what you're doing. And yeah, but over time I think it has slowly changed, because those same people, as you grow, and it's what everybody says, but like sometimes people don't clap for you until you're doing amazing things. Like first, like, why are you doing this? And suddenly you're successful and it's like, wow, she's doing this. So I think that he's also lived through, and a lot of my family have also lived through that shift of first people being a little bit like, oh well, this is weird and different, and now actually like being really like, this is really cool.
You also had that
Yeah.
added thing as well of like actually doing this for your health. You said right at the start of the conversation,
Yeah.
like that injury that you had, which I will ask you about in a sec. Like you actually realized at that point that if you weren't going to do
Yeah.
anything for your health, it wasn't going to change. So
Mhm.
you are actually doing this thing for you, hiding this thing that is good for you, and then experiencing
Mhm.
everything else outside of that as well. But like, just from a health perspective and a health benefit, it must have almost felt like you were like, I'm trying to do something good here.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. And I think one is I'm trying to do something good here. And two is like, I'm the one, like, I knew how much pain I was in. So at the time, so just to like, so essentially what happened was I was waiting for a friend. After school, we'd go to madrasa, which is like, we would just like kind of like after school, Islamic classes. So I'd go with a friend that lived around the corner. So I was about 15. I was just before I went into GCSE time. And so every day I'd like after school get ready, I'd walk to her house, wait there, and then we'd kind of both go. So I was waiting outside her house just for her to come down, and she had a builder, I think. He wasn't like a legit builder, but they had builders working outside their house, this guy, and he was putting coving up outside. It's like that really thick, yeah. Where it's got the really thick, like white kind of plastic coving that they put to cover the pipes. So he was on a ladder doing that. I was just stood there minding my business, 15 years old. And it felt like he dropped it and it hit my head. So obviously from that height, it was the left side of my head. And obviously I was a kid, so all I remember, like I was wearing my headscarf, all I remember was touching my head. And I think I'm a very calm person, like calm natured. My first instinct was just, I'm okay. And then I touched my head, and then yeah, literally I touched my head, and then obviously I've got a scarf on, which means I've got 2 layers at least. And then there was like blood all over my hands. And that's when I like obviously remember feeling panic. Um and then her mum came out, and then her mum took me to my mum, which was just around the corner, and then we went to the hospital. Things so yeah, so that was essentially the injury, but they had to like glue my head back together because I don't stitch anymore. I think I had to glue it back together. And yeah, that was the injury. And they kind of obviously let me go home. They said you'll probably suffer from like post concussion and issue, like you probably get headaches and things. But it went from headaches, which was bad, to like, so first the headaches got really extreme, so I couldn't sit in any noise. I couldn't sit at the dinner table with my family because just them talking was so painful. And that was that. So in terms of pain and headaches got really bad. I felt like quite nauseous a lot. And then even school, so because obviously I was doing my GCSEs at the time. School was, because imagine like in a corridor you're like going to class, but
Yeah.
obviously there's so much noise. And I think also from like a hospital perspective, I guess they don't fully know what symptoms of like post-concussion you're going to feel and things. So there wasn't a lot of direction. It was like a booklet, like, here you go. So only as it was happening, because physically I felt okay. I think I've always been kind of like strong-bodied. So I felt okay. But obviously all of these other things started to happen, and I was only figuring them out as I was really struggling with like noise. And I remember being in French class once, and I was just like in tears because I used to sit quite at the front, but the noise in the class was just a lot. But I've always been the kind of person that finds it quite hard to vocalize when I'm in pain. So I was just sat there trying to like sit through it, and then it just got a lot. But my teacher, she's lovely, but she kind of sent a friend to like take me to my head of year. He sent me home and things like that. But yeah, it was really, so it went from that where the headaches were bad. Any also fun, any movement. So if I was to jump, it would make my head really hurt. So then I couldn't do PE anymore, and that kind of thing. But this was so through my GCSEs, and then the pain, as in I was going through it really like a lot, like the lights hurt, noise hurt, everything. But I think I got through my GCSEs, and then through even college, so sixth form, I went to the same school. That's when the pain in my body started. So I think what I understood from the back and forth with hospitals and doctors was it caused some sort of nerve damage. And that resulted in like, basically the pain kind of spread from, okay, now just my head hurts, to first it started to be my neck, through to my like kind of shoulder. And then over time, it was just the whole left side of my body. So my arm would hurt a lot, my leg would hurt. And it got to the point where I was kind of on crutches just because of how much pain I was in. So this is taking me through like GCSEs to literally all of kind of college. Second year of sixth form was where I was now on crutches. And I think the back and forth with the doctors was what really, like, bless my mom, 2 years, like she was just back, like she was with me in the hospital all the time. But there was just no clear, okay, this is what's wrong with you, this is what you need to do. And it was just a lot of the same type of appointments, them doing the reflex checks and them doing this. And I think also because I naturally, because I was kind of a chunkier kid growing up, I've always been quite strong in my body. So if you do tests and things, I'm not going to be that, I'm not suffering. Like I can get on with my life. But I think with doctors, as long as you could walk and get on with your life, they just leave you to it. But I remember going to this one appointment, and I was at breaking point. I was like exhausted with going back and forth, exhausted with being in pain. And the doctor, he was one of those doctors that was a bit too straight talking, but he did some checks, and he just said, it's funny because the line really stuck, but he just said, this is the point where my legs were really in pain, and he said, oh, it'd be easier on your legs if you're lighter, because obviously I was quite a chubby, like, just kid growing up. And yeah, I think funnily that one sentence was just what I remember being. It was the first switch in my head where I was like, you know what? Essentially, all these doctors are saying is like, they're not going to give. There's no treatment. They're not going to. I was on actually, funnily, no, I was on these antidepressants as well, because there's certain type of antidepressant that they're good for nerve pain. Okay. But obviously they come with all side effects. So I was taking them, but all the side effects were also there. I think that was just kind of the final straw. That was do you know what? I don't want to do any of this anymore. So I think I stopped the tablets. I stopped even appointments, and I was at the same sixth form, and I just went to the P department, and I found this guy who used to run after school boxing classes. And I just said, like, I explained everything. I think he could tell how done with life I was, probably now when I think back. But I was just like, look, like I explained my whole, obviously I had crutches, and I explained everything. And I said, I just want to lose weight. Like, I just want to be strong. And then that was it really. He had a Wednesday after school session and a Saturday session. I would just go to them, and I think just that one person kind of investing in, you know what, of course, like, you can do it. And slowly I started to see the weight drop, slowly, like, and obviously I slowly started to feel stronger as well, which was really, really cool. And that's where like the whole fitness sort of entering my life. And the first time I realized, like, hard work equates results, hard work equates feeling stronger, and I think finally that principle's probably carried me like through my life now, where a big part of me like doesn't see anything as something I need to rely on anybody else for. Anything I want to do, or any kind of anytime I'm faced with like a barrier, I just know, like, I'm not waiting for someone else to figure it out for me now. Because I think medically, that's the one thing we always rely on a doctor. And I think that kind of learning that so young, so it would have been like, I'm probably 16. I think learning that so young, part of me was just like, actually, anything I want to do, I kind of just need to take into my own hands. Yeah.
It's so, like, just hearing you speak about and tell the whole story, it's like, obviously not just the experience of the injury, but the years that follow in like such a formative period of your life as well, right? From
Yeah.
16. Um, that is, it's one of those things that you wouldn't be the person you are today without what has happened.
Yeah,
But obviously
for
it was such an
sure.
awful thing to happen. It must feel like quite counterintuitive when you're thinking about it in your head to be like w- would I go through all of that experience again to get to where I am now? Like it must be so
Yeah,
weird to kind of like even comprehend.
definitely. I think yeah, because I remember the time. I remember being so just. I remember talking to a friend and saying, I don't know what it's like to not be in pain." And I find that really sad now because, like, obviously I would have been so young, but also like such important years where you're studying and you're trying to figure. Because obviously I wanted certain grades to get into the uni I wanted and all that stuff. And now I do really think the older we get, the more sometimes, and I find myself doing it too, the more sometimes we think like, oh, I can't do this because of this. And I kind of give myself more excuses now. And when I think about it at the time, I wasn't complaining about the cards I was dealt. I was just dealing with them. And like,
Yeah.
I got the grades I wanted. I went to the uni I wanted. And suddenly, like, as in now when I really think about it, I don't actually know how I managed to do it all. Um, like, yeah, as in everything I wanted, the uni I wanted to go to, the degree I wanted to study, given the odds, I probably would have like settled for less, but I didn't. While also obviously like figuring my health out and getting quite lean and getting stronger. And yeah, it's quite surreal.
It's this
Yeah.
I've had like we've had conversations on the podcast before about accountability and
Hmm.
responsibility, and I think they're two very important things, right? And I like
Yeah.
obviously when it comes to health and things like that, sometimes you can't help what is happening, so it is difficult to hold yourself to account. But you can always hold yourself to account in certain aspects of your life, even if
Hmm.
another one is falling kind of by the wayside a little bit. And that's something that I'm getting from this conversation a lot as well. It's like you are
Yeah.
literally responsible for your own destiny, as cheesy as that sounds. And I know it's a cliche,
Yeah.
but it's a cliche for a reason, right? You genuinely are responsible for everything you do in life to a certain point, anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's funny, I feel like that's probably the reminder I kind of need today. Like today, I feel like I need that a little bit more because, like I said, I think funnily, when I've now have less barriers to living the life that I want. And I guess owing to the hard work that I put in through those years, I do feel myself slowing down a little bit.
Okay.
I think part of it is nice because you're able to enjoy the life you've kind of worked really hard to build. But I kind of also miss that fire a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, the
So
fire
I
can always
think,
get lit
yeah.
though, can't it? That's the best
Yeah,
thing about this
yeah,
whole thing. I love that,
definitely.
like, we've got to like 50 minutes into this conversation, haven't mentioned running once.
I know.
And
Yeah.
the best thing about this podcast is like the fact that running's the thing that runs through it, right? Or like fitness and health. But like the majority of people, we end up talking about everything else and
Everything
just
else, yeah.
life in general rather than that. But I did want to touch on London this year, right? Because
Mhm.
that was a big thing and looked absolutely unbelievable as well. Like
Yeah,
what was that like
definitely.
to do the London Marathon? And I would imagine something that you never thought you would do.
No, definitely not. I think, so as in how it was it was crazy, and it was probably it was the biggest proof to myself that you really can do anything
Yeah.
because I've done a half. So I did a half in Marrakesh the last January, and that was amazing. That was like really just kind of off the bat. Like I was quite strong as in I was into the gym, I wasn't really running. But the marathon, it came about. So the opportunity came about, and I was just quite like I feel like weirdly how things align, but before the opportunity came about, I was constantly being like shown how hard a lot of people work to try and get a spot. Like I have a cousin who he tried 8 years in a row and then got a spot, things like that. And this kind of was presented to me, and I was like, you know what, and I'm just like that. I can't say no to an
Your cousin's
opportunity.
like, what?
Literally, and I was just like, this has come right to me. I was like, I can't say no, even though I'm not so I did the half, but I'm not really a runner. I've always been more into like lifting and powerlifting and that kind of thing. But yeah, the opportunity came and I was like, I can't say no. So I signed up for it and that was great. But literally training was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I think it's funny because it's one of the reasons I love the gym too, but it's a very personal experience. There, if you want to, and Mike Finley, the same cousin that tried 8 times, he said to me, but he's like, if you really want to know yourself, like run a marathon, because you go through, oh my God, every emotion that you possibly can go through in the space of a couple of hours. But yeah, it was, yeah, I think it was literally one of those experiences where I was like, I can kind of do anything I put my mind to. But also it was quite poetic, like, as in, because it was on the 27th of April and my birthday is the 29th. So I was like, I'm going to do this thing before I turn 26. And I think that really, it made my whole birthday kind of time feel really like life changing. I think it felt like, you know what, let me prove this, like prove to myself that I can really do anything that I try, like, and I commit to. And even that, I mean, I didn't get the time I wanted. I didn't do any of that stuff. And that's completely fine. I think old me would have been very like, oh, like, as in now I really don't let myself get devastated over like silly goals I've made myself. Like to me, the achievement is I just ran a whole marathon, not the time or anything. So yeah, it was really, really, really cool.
26 miles for your 26th birthday is pretty cool. And I would imagine
Yeah.
there was quite a lot of like, walking downstairs in quite a lot of pain on your actual birthday
Oh my
itself, though.
God. Yeah, it was, yeah, I was in pain. Yeah, it's true. But it was really fun. And I think one of the things I loved was and I'm finding this in fitness all around, but one of the most surreal parts of any comp day, marathon day, whatever, is the love around you.
Yeah.
And I really didn't think about it. You think you're the main character, and you are, because you're the one running. But actually, without all of the bits around you and just the real shows of like humanity and love and all of those things, it's all like not for nothing, but it doesn't feel as special. I think every really lovely part of that day that I remember, because obviously you are in pain, and parts of the run you're like, why am I doing this to myself? But every part that carried me through was just people,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was random people. Like, because I'm not from London, a lot of my family couldn't really make it. My husband was with me, bless him. He was there texting me the whole time. Like, it was in my ears, which was so lovely. And I think obviously that's one part of like that display of love, but a lot was just strangers. So
Yeah.
many. I remember I was at a point where I was dying, and this girl, she was passionately shouting at me. I think she realized I was struggling, and I didn't realize she was talking to me because it looked like she knew who she was shouting at. But she was she's like, Queen, she's like, your makeup hasn't even broken, you look great. And it was such a funny moment, but I was like, oh, she's talking to me, and it just kept like keeps you going.
Yeah.
But there were so many moments like that. Even when you're watching other runners, like, you know, someone's struggling and another runner like kind of helps pick them up. And I think there are so many moments of just true displays of like humanity. And I never knew, because I wasn't into like marathons or anything, I never knew that they're so fun to just spectate. I was running, but I think in the future I would just watch, because you just don't see anything like it. It's crazy.
As well,
Yeah.
like we're delivered so much bad news, so much scaremongering, so much awful
Yeah.
stuff on social. So like we're all in it, right? It would be very, very
Mm.
easy for us to all be very negative about life a lot of the
Yeah.
time. And I know, like, I'm sure you've got friends as well that are
Yeah.
probably in that headspace. And actually, when you not just like running a marathon, but I think it does show it to the nth degree, but like going to a gym or competing in a
Mm.
comp, or it genuinely does show that like people are actually
Definitely.
really nice. Like there are a
So
lot of
nice.
really cool people
Yeah.
out there.
It's so true. It is, yeah, and I think you are right. Like gym, fitness, all of it, like any of those type of settings. Because even comps, actually, because my husband's not a powerlifter. He's never really been. He loves like racket sports, not as
Okay.
much like kind of gym sports. Now he's kind of having to get into it. But I remember his first experience at my comp. When you just look around the room, it's quite like a scary bunch of people. They're all like really intense, and they got their headphones on and stuff. But even he said it, like he never realized how lovely like the community can be. I think we can all look a bit intimidating and stuff, but actually everyone is so nice. And my experience has always been the same. I think even when I started the gym, because I went to like a commercial gym when I first ever started. I didn't love it, and then I switched to this independent gym. And I remember first going, it was really intimidating. It's like really old school bodybuilding style gym in like Aston in Birmingham. So it's really like intense looking. But the people there, and it was all really heavily male dominated at the time. Now it's a nice mix, but they were honestly some of the kindest people I've ever met. And like some of them were the one, like they'd give me time of day. They'd like teach me like a lot of the basics of like deadlifting and things like that. But it's so true. I think the most kind of kindness I've probably experienced is in a lot of these kind of fitness spaces.
Yeah.
I think a big part is that shared mentality of us all working on ourselves and everyone knowing like no one is the finished product. So there's no judgment because we all kind of started from somewhere. Like people started as really skinny kids or really chubby kids, and I think it's just a place where everyone's just working on themselves, but they're also really respecting that you're working on yourself. It's such a nice place. Yeah.
Everyone understands. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
Like a
everyone really
shared boat.
does. There's just something, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what's happened that day. Like you're there to better yourself in some capacity. Look, we'll wrap
Definitely.
up with this because I genuinely feel like we could probably do another 3 or 4 hours, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like I'm absolutely loving it. But like you and your sister, we mentioned her before, like you're not only obviously sisters, not only have been through a lot of the same experiences, but also have your business together. And I'm sure you've had a lot of people from the same culture, the same backgrounds coming to you to ask for advice and to ask for help and to ask how they kind of make it work in this space, right? And I'd be stupid not to ask that, right? So like, if there is somebody listening right now that is going through a lot of the same things that you went through and can really relate to a lot of the stuff you've said, like what would you say to them about getting into the world of health and fitness?
I think I would definitely say like intention is everything. I think it's something we're taught, like it's a really intense like Islamic principle too. And the kind of quote is innamal a'malu binniyat, which is basically every action is based on intention. And I think that is probably the biggest driving force. When you have so many barriers around you, and when you have so many voices saying you can't do something, or there's this X, Y, Z reason why you shouldn't succeed or you shouldn't figure this out for yourself, I think the only thing you have to rely on sometimes is yourself. And with yourself, as long as you're grounded and you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you'll carry yourself through. And I think that would be my biggest first kind of advice. Like always, like go back to your intention, because whenever it gets noisy, whenever it gets scary, it gets anxious or whatever it is, you just go back to, this is my grounding voice, this is the reason I'm doing something. It's like we always say, like, what's your why? It's basically the same thing. So I think that would be one. And then the second thing would just be find your thing to lean on, because it's funny, because obviously it's kind of the opposite. Like I'm saying, you can, based on yourself, like how strong you feel in yourself, you can do it. But I know, and it's where me and my sister's kind of whole alpha community comes from. It was our realization that without each other, we also wouldn't have still been here. Because without that like person to lean on when things are really, scary or noisy, or when you are faced with a lot of like backlash, whatever it is, whatever your struggle is, one is definitely being strong in yourself, but then when you don't have that strength, having the right support system to lean on, even if it's just one person, it can carry you through. Like it can change your life, I think. So I would say those two things. So one, being really strong in yourself, and two, finding whatever your rock is, whether it's one person, whether it's a community, whether it's a place, even a gym, like even one place that you feel yourself in. I think those are probably the two. Basically figure out your internal strength and figure out your external strength, and I think that's all you need.